Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Body, Mind, Spirit. I'm so excited. We are here with Dr. Tricial Pingel today, the hip hop energy doc, and I can't wait to talk to her. So thank you so much, Tricia, for being with us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Let's do this.
You know what? I was going to ask you, so how did you become the hip hop energy doc?
Well, it's funny because I treat adrenal fatigue. In the word fatigue, I'm always trying to help people regain their energy. But, I went through adrenal fatigue myself. And one of the ways that I've kind of come out of it and reconnected with myself is reconnecting with dance. So I've been a dancer since I was a kid. And when I was a teenager, I did some of the early styles of hip hop. I was on a dance team and then went back into dance in my 20s and just really focused on hip hop. So I actually take hip hop dance classes every single week. I dance with a bunch of teenagers. They keep me young. They keep me energetic. And it's been a way of healing myself and also just kind of bringing joy back to the world, because what's better than dance,
I love that because I hate exercise, and I put that in air quotes, exercise, but I love dance because it doesn't really feel like you're exercising, but it's such a great way to move the body.
Oh, it's incredible. And the muscles, it tones the core, the butt, the legs, the arms, the mind. Just to remember choreography and then have your body actually do. There's a lot to be said for what you input through your eyes and through your ears and how that interprets into your body and reconnects you. And I think so often we disconnect our head from our body, right, in our lives because we get so busy and our head is over here and our body's over here. And dance is a way to just bring that back together. And so that's what I love about it the most. So yes, I've been coined the hip hop energy doc because I think I bring people's energy back by dancing as well.
I was going to ask you more about this adrenal fatigue because it's a terminology that you may have heard of. Like I have heard of it, other people may have heard of. But can you explain exactly what that is?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people misinterpret it because of the word fatigue in there, right? So they assume that anyone with adrenal fatigue has to be absolutely exhausted. And that's actually not true. That's more the end stages. Adrenal fatigue is simply this. When you have stress, it has an impact on your body. And when I first went into medicine, I was really looking at that connection between stress and the hormones, stress in the gut, stress in the mood, stress in the cardiovascular system, stress in your sleep. And I actually took out a napkin. I was at a coffee shop and I had a pen and I had a napkin and I drew out all of the things that stress impacts in the body. And that became my book. How does stress impact? So what I usually find is that people who actually have adrenal fatigue are not always fatigued, but they have some symptom that nobody can identify. Or they say, oh, it's heartburn. Here, take an acid. Oh, your hormones are out of whack. That's normal. Or yeah, you're just a little bit depressed. You have a lot going on. When really those are the early signs of fatigue, meaning simply that stress is impacting your body. It's causing a normal physiological reaction that we all get under stress and therefore causing symptoms.
How did you discover that you had the adrenal fatigue?
I've been through a lot in my life. And I think throughout my childhood, my teens, my 20s, I would go to doctors, a wide variety of them, with some symptom, and I wouldn't get any answers. Or they wouldn't ask any questions. So it was like, oh, that's normal, or this or that, or this or that. And when I finally started to go through med school, I really think the adrenal fatigue hit me for the first time because I just was doing these long days. I had my first child during med school, fast forward later, I've lost both my parents. I've gone through the grief of them. And every time something in my life that was big like that impacted me, all of a sudden my periods would get worse. My digestion would get worse. I'd start to get headaches. I'd get depressed. I'd start to have anxiety. I wouldn't sleep. And so I think it's just what most of us experience, honestly, is just this compound effect of stress on our health. And it wasn't until I really sat back and took a good evaluation that I was like, wow, here I am in practice treating other people for adrenal fatigue. And I have adrenal fatigue. Isn't that funny? I'm my own patient. And then that's when I really took a twist on my own health and changed my health for the better so that I could help other people as well.
I think it's almost nice when somebody has gone through things because they understand it better than like you just read it in a textbook and, and you're like, okay, well, we're going to do this thing. Like you've lived it. So you understand what people are going through.
And you're not going to find adrenal fatigue in a textbook.
Oh, yeah.
In the conventional society, it doesn't exist. It's false. So nobody understands it. I don't think there's a single doctor on this planet that could argue that stress doesn't have, or that could say that stress doesn't have an impact on our health. Yet there's no ICD-10 code for it. There's no diagnosis for it. There's no treatment for it. Yet I mean, seriously, it's undeniable. Like everybody knows that stress impacts our health. So why aren't we treating it? Why aren't we focusing on it? And those were kind of the things that really kind of changed my life in general, both as a practitioner, as a mom, as a person. It was just realizing that impact.
And I think too, there's at least in American culture, there's this martyrdom. Like, I'm just going to keep pushing myself and look at all the stuff I'm doing and look how hard I'm working, because that American dream, if you work hard, you're going to get what you deserve. But the body is saying otherwise.
Well, and we've all this technology, this amazing technology, even that we're using right now, is causing so much more stress on our body. I mean, I always say it this way. I say, if you could imagine yourself in the woods and you're just hiking along and along comes a bear, what happens to your body? Your heart rate goes up, you start to panic, you focus only on the bear. Where are you going to run? Right? You don't remember the flowers you ran by. You don't pay attention to anything. You don't stop and have sex. You don't stop to go to the bathroom. You don't stop to do your hair. Like, you run. And we used to run and then calm down. And now all we're doing is running. It's like, I think all of us can relate to this. As soon as you get away from that first bear, it's like, and there's another one. And so the next one comes, and that's having a pretty strong impact on our health as a whole. And you're right. We get so driven to just keep running and keep pushing those bears, when what we really need to do is stop and look at the flowers.
Does this type of stress can affect all aspects of health? Like, what type of things can stress cause?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you name it, it's there. I mean, I think the most common things I see when people finally start to recognize it, brain fog, right? People say, I don't remember anything, or I have a poor focus. My hair's falling out. I don't feel right. I feel nervous or anxious or depressed, all these things that are kind of more of a symptom and not a disease. Right? So they go to the doctor, they ask for lab work, everything comes back fine. They're told they're fine, but they know they're not fine. I mean, those are the most common things I see. But when you look at stress physiologically and you look at how it impacts the body, it impacts every single system in our body, every single one. And it also depletes our nutrition, our B vitamins, our antioxidants. So then we start to have other impacts from that. It's like, it just keeps going. And the thing is we can stop it. We just sometimes choose not to. And so that's what I'm trying to educate people, is that you can actually stop this process, and this prevents a lot of illness.
This is something that I just think is so amazing. We need to talk about more, and we're going to talk about it when we come back from the commercial break.
80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health.
And we're back with Dr. Tricial Pingel, the hip hop energy doc, talking about stress and how it affects your body. So, Dr. Tricia, if we're now a person who goes, yeah, you know what, everything you just said before the break, that's me, then what? Like, where do you start? Because sometimes when you're on that hamster wheel of stress, it just kind of perpetuates itself.
Always. And I think that's one of the biggest parts of therapy, is just realizing that you have to start somewhere and you can't do it all at once. That's just bringing on 6 bears at one time, right? So I really break it down into 4 parts. One, there's a nutrition component, right? What you eat, the food you put in, giving yourself healthy food and replenishing that. Number 2, there's an exercise component, of course, because we want to have movement. We're meant to move. Number 3, there are supplements that you can do, a wide variety from amino acids to herbs to otherwise. And number 4, which I think is the part that you're leading on to, and the part that I think is what most people miss, is the mind-body connection. Just reconnecting with yourself. Most of my clients, I have to spend a good 6 months really teaching them how to listen to their body. What is their body saying to them? And now how do we react? If we want to make a lifelong change, right? We don't want to just do this quick fix thing, and we want to be healthy for the rest of our lives. We have to start reconnecting with our body. And one thing that stress does is it completely chops our head off, right? It keeps our body running and our head's way over here. So bringing that back together, I think, is where most people struggle and why most people give up on trying to get well. Is they're just, you have to get into the right mindset.
Yeah, I think also too, like some of the basics that help support the body, like sleep, like that's a catch 22. Because when you're stressed, you're like, okay, wait, I'm just gonna keep pushing myself. One more thing, I'm gonna get one more thing done. Or you're laying in bed and your brain is spinning with all the things you need to do, but the sleep is so important.
So,
So
I mean, sleep is, you have to rest. I mean, you know, in our nervous systems, we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight, and we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which of course is our rest and digest. And if we're not in that, we can't do that. And I think, and I don't know the exact stat, but it's something like you're supposed to spend 80% in the parasympathetic, but we spend 80% in the sympathetic and we wonder why we're sick, right? So learning those techniques to put yourself into that calm is pivotal. It has to happen. And it's not quick. I'm still learning. You know, I've been repairing myself for probably 20 years now. And it seems like right when I get to a certain point, something massive goes and just drops right on top of me. And I kind of got to start over. And that's normal. And that's okay. You know, you just say, all right, you know, I'm just going to keep on chugging along. And so it takes some time, but it absolutely can be helped and many symptoms reversed by simply paying attention to that aspect alone.
you know, I was just thinking too, when you were talking earlier about when I think back about medical school is definitely a big stressor. I have very little memories of actual like events that happened during that time period. And it wasn't until recently that I'm like, you know what? I think it was the level of stress that I was under that it didn't form those like good memories during that time. So that brain fog you're talking about.
I agree. I don't remember anything. I just remember feeling like I always had a test. That's about all I remember.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, when it comes to also going back to the adrenal fatigue, are there ways that can be looked into?
Yeah, I mean, I do a wide variety of comprehensive labs. The one thing that we always need to keep in mind is that no two people are the same. So you could have, you know, 5 people with the exact same symptoms, but they're completely different etiologies, different the way that it happened, how it happened. So I think it's really important to get a good comprehensive workup of the entire endocrine system. You know, blood sugar, thyroid hormones, and stress hormones all balance each other out. So you know, you can't just look at the adrenals. You also have to see how that impacts everything else. And then also look at the nutrition of the body, the activity of the body, the mindset of the body. So it's usually a pretty comprehensive workup for me. And then customizing that treatment based on what's needed per person.
If there was one thing that you could tell people to do to kind of help, what was that? What would that one thing be?
Really self-reflection. That's what I would say. I think when you're in that fight or flight mode, you don't realize you're there. And so I think taking those downtimes, forcing yourself to take those downtimes to really pay attention to what your body's trying to tell you is so important. Just start paying attention, jot it down, keep a journal, go back and look at it so that you can start to determine what's unique about you and what your body's trying to tell you. And that will help your physician get to the bottom of it faster and find a solution.
And you know, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think is really important for us to know?
Oh my gosh, I could go on all day about stress. I mean, I think more recently with some of the more recent times, I would say, you know, often we feel like we can't get out of that hamster wheel of stress because all these negative things keep impacting us. And I would encourage people to sit back and consider every negative thing as a positive thing, a sign of something else you need to be doing or something you need to grow from. So taking that and just spreading more joy and doing things that bring you joy on a daily basis, getting rid of the things that don't, I think is a really big takeaway and a really good start to a healthy lifestyle.
From the patients that you've worked with, have you noticed this? And I'm not sure if this is something I'm just like noticing or if it's just that I looked at and now I see it. But I feel like the world seems to be more stressed since the pandemic.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. I was wondering if you've
Oh my
seen a
God.
difference.
Oh my God. In anxiety levels alone, sleep, insomnia, hormone irregularities, estrogen dominance. I mean, like vanity stuff. I think it goes back to that technology. I mean, it was bad enough. We were already scrolling on our phones and then we had all this stuff just popping up all the time of stimulation. That was bear after bear after bear after bear. And I think some people did what I did and chose to say, not going to let this impact me into my energy. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep learning. And you had other people who it it just knocked them down. And now they're just struggling and clawing their way out. I absolutely have seen so much more since then.
But it's nice is what you're saying is there's a way out of this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And the thing is you're the one that can fix it, right? A lot of it comes from you just empowering yourself to want to be well and to get better and to take things that maybe aren't so great and turn them into something that are beneficial to you. And that's what I just try to teach my kids too, because I think they were hit pretty hard over the last few years as well. It's just, hey, you know what? Things happen. Let's find a way out, you know?
Yeah, it's a kind of, I always think of like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, you know, like that we all have the power inside of us.
We do. And, you know, in general, and maybe this is a good takeaway too, is that what I think a lot of us are lacking in the conventional medical society right now is a lack of education, a lack of empowerment, and a lack of choice. And I think if we all just say, okay, how can we take what's happened over the last few years and grow as a society and improve our medical care? That's what we need to look at. We need to realize how powerful we actually are. And we need to realize that we have choices in life and we have the ability to educate ourselves and educate others. And those are really important things. And I think they're our way out, you know, they're our way to a healthy society.
And you said you have a book. Where can people find your book?
I do. You can always go to drpingel.com, drpingel.com, and find it there. You can also find it on Amazon, and it is called Total Health Turnaround.
I love that. And while we're at it, where can people find out more about you?
drpingel.com, head there. I do a ton on social media. If you love dancing, you love energy, you love joy, I try to put tons of stuff on Instagram and Facebook. Also, all linked from my website. If you start at drpingel.com, you'll find all sorts of stuff. And make sure you reach out and say hello. If you find me on social media, make sure you say hey.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're so much fun to have here. So, and I could go on for hours, but
me too.
But I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Well, I thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And I just want to remind everybody, make sure you go check out Dr. Pingel's website. And then while you're there, jump on over to wytv7.org. Take a look at all the other wonderful programming that we have going on. And don't forget to hit the donate button, because every dollar that you donate, even if it's just $1, it helps somebody in need. We can see all the scholarship programs that we're doing and also help to support the other programs. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Tricia, for being with us today.
Thank you so much.